Okay, before I tried doing this, it started to freeze on me. But now I'm going to see can I share my video, my PowerPoint slide. Share. Okay, before it freezes, so hopefully it won't freeze again. I don't know why my laptop keep freezing, but please bear with me. I've started over a few times and I see that it has freezed again. But I'm not going to stop this time. I'm just going to continue with my slide. So as I was saying, as I started over, this is my third time, sorry. This is my third time. My third time starting over. Hello class, my name is Rose McKenzie and I am presenting my class presentation on my term paper, which is on childhood sexual abuse. I am going to try to do my best and hope that I am presenting it correctly. Childhood sexual abuse was of interest to me because one day this young lady walked into our office building and informed the receptionist that she needed help, that she needed to speak to someone. The receptionist immediately called my office and informed me that a young lady was at the front office and she needed assistance. So I came out to the front of the office. I greeted the young lady and I asked her, how can I help her? So she immediately said that she needed to speak to someone, that she had some stuff bothering her. But I can see that the individual is a little disturbed also. So immediately I called one of my case managers over to come and sit with her, to speak with her. Well, we found out from the young lady that she was sexually abused from her childhood. Plus, she was in a relationship with the guy that was sexually abusing her, and his friends was also sexually abusing her. She said she did not want to go back home. She was tired of living like that, and she needed help. So immediately we called the police, and we had her to explain her story to the police. She gave the police, the guy, information, everything. So come to find out, the guy was a um, third sex defender, a third degree sex defender, where he just came out of jail a year ago for molesting a 5-year-old and a 5-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl. So he was they issued a warrant for him, and immediately they picked him up the following day. So this is how I came about with writing about childhood sexual abuse, and I also did my term paper on childhood sexual abuse also. Okay. Childhood sexual abuse. It shouldn't hurt to be a child. It shouldn't hurt to be a child. Child sexual abuse, I'm sorry, childhood sexual abuse. Child sexual abuse is a global problem that has significant consequences for public health. It has been a prominent topic of public concern for more than a decade, but many basic facts about the problem remain unclear or in dispute. Childhood sexual abuse. According to Babel, who is the author, 2013, with childhood sexual abuse, victims are often too young to know how to express what is happening and seek out help. When not properly treated, this can result in a lifetime of post traumatic stress disorder, depression, and anxiety. And this is what I think happened to the young lady that came into the office, because she was abused for quite some time. She's now 27 years old, and she said it started when she was 7 years old. She was being abused by her stepfather. And this what brought so much trauma to her life. And she's been in and out of psych wards. She has a lot of psychological issues. And this is part of being sexually abused. Child abuse and its effects. When a child is abused, it not only affects the child's life, but the whole family life is affected. The trauma, the trauma the child goes through affects everyone in that society because sexual abuse, molestation, and rape are such shame filled concepts. Our culture tends to suppress information about them. You don't No one wants to really hear that they was raped. A lot of people have shame. They don't want anyone to know this happened to them, but we assure them that they're not only the victim. um, this happens to a lot of people besides them, and we try to make them aware that they are not alone, and we're there to help them. Victims of child abuse by gender. If you look at the pie, you will see that 47% female and 53% male, which means that the male is higher than the females that was victim of abuse by gender. And then you see the victims of child abuse by age. And you see from the age of 13 to 18 years is 20 something percent. But if you look at the age of eight, sorry, the age that was unknown is 4%. That means those that wasn't reported was only 4%, which we don't know what age bracket they fall in because um, those are the one that was unknown, wasn't reported. Then you have under 5 years old, you will see that it's 33%. And then you have the age 6 to 12 years old is 37% that the victims of child abuse by age took place. So it even get younger and younger. And even today in our society, we have babies that are being molested and abused. So the age constantly goes down and up, it fluctuates, but no one should be abused by anyone. I'm sorry. Victims of child abuse gender continues. I really don't know why my screen is like this here. Click to add notes. I'm not even sure why that is there. I tried several times to get rid of it, but it wasn't going away. So I am so lost when it comes to computer, but I'm going to try to do my best with this. Victims of child abuse gender continues. So I'm just going to go over this here. According to the pie, which I just reviewed a few seconds ago, it shows that the percentage for the male adults being abused is much higher than females. When it comes to children between the age of 6 to 12, it is 37%, and children under the age of 5 is 33%. Children under the age of 5 percentage is not too far from the children between the ages of 6 through 12. I can't imagine the trauma and scar these children was left with. Today, many of these children has grown up with so many different issues. Sorry. I'm sorry. Has grown up with, I'm sorry. Today, many of these children has grown up with so many different issues due to them being abused as a child. Where was the parents? Why wasn't there anybody to protect these kids? And these are questions that are constantly being asked What was the reason they was left alone? Didn't you see some sign that these kids was being abused? So some said they had to work. They had no other alternative but to leave their child with a family member. And most of these cases that take place are family members that are molesting these kids. Stop the abuse. We must stop the abuse. It is too many abuse going on. And there's so many different abuse because they have emotional abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse. There are so many other different abuse that takes place on a daily that our kids are subjected to, as well as our adults. These are all signs of abuse. Self-esteem. Many times you see young girls with self-esteem issue. When you see them, they are in abusive relationship and then they're afraid to get out. Then you have those that are going through depression because of abuse, some form of abuse that they encounter during their lives. These are signs that you must look for. Self-esteem. If you see them suffering with self-esteem issue, if something occurred in their life that caused them to have self-esteem, whether it was them being molested, whether them being bullied, whether somebody picking at them or constantly telling them in their lifetime that they would never be anybody, or they would never amount to anything, or they was never pretty. These are some things that also causes people to have low self-esteem issue. Another one is depression. Depression also comes from some type of um, tragic that happened in their life also. These are things that stems from abuse as well. Elopers. Elopers are someone that will run away. Um, you have to always keep your eye on them. You have to always keep them close because these are people that tends to run away a lot. Then you have the withdrawal from their friends. These are the ones that you notice that they start to shy away from their friend. Before they was very outgoing, um, and with child abuse and different form, these other abuses, sorry, it's never the same. You can see sometime they will be okay, and then again they're not okay because the abuse is still there. And when they start to remember what they've been trying to hide and put away for so that nobody else would notice it, it always comes back to them. So you see a lot of kids sometime. You can tell if something is going on with the child because you will see them sometimes like distance themselves. They don't want to play with the other kids. They want to stand back by themselves. They kind of shy. They shy away from others. So these are all things, signs that we should watch and pay close attention, especially with our kids. And we know that our child is outgoing, constantly playing up and down. They're talking, playing, love to play with others, love to play in the park with the kids. But all of a sudden, this child is starting to become withdrawn. They're shying away from their friends. They are playing in the park by themselves. They don't want to be around anybody else. We must pay close attention to these signs as a parents when they occurs. Child develop an eating disorder. Yes, and you will notice kids that are way bigger than others. Some of them are obese, and not all of them are obese due to abuse, but the majority of them are. Is something that occurred in their life as to why they have these eating disorders. So we must also watch and observe our child. Never feel that that child is just he just want to be by themselves, or she just want to be by herself for a while. We must pay close attention to our kids as they grow up. At all time, we must keep a close watch, a close eye on them. Okay. The literature review that I touched on that I thought would that was very good to that I find very good and very interesting, because it talks about the different cases out there. Um, the title of this author was Child Sexual Abuse Report of 311 Cases with Review of Literature. This article is about a study conducted among researchers with 311 cases of child sexual abuse to highlight the epidemiological, epidemiological features and negative impact on victims' well-being, and to emphasize the need for a multidisciplinary approach to the to the primary prevention and management of child sexual abuse. This is the literature review. Most of the patients used in the study were from socioeconomic class. According to Escobar and the other authors, 100% of the perpetrators were male, with 70% of them being acquaintance and 22% of the cases being family members. I just spoke about family members molesting the, the kids, molesting their kin, which it happens on a regular. You have family members that molesting family members. They supposed to be babysitting them or watching them, and the next thing they already molest these kids, and it has been occurring for quite some time, and the parents don't realize it until that child bring it to their attention. Right now, I have a cousin that lives in Atlanta, Georgia. She locked her brother up, which her brother has been in jail now going on 4 years, because on in November 4 years ago on a Thanksgiving, they all was sitting at the table, and her daughter said to her, she said, "Mommy, I need to tell you something." And she said, "I don't want you to be upset." And she said, "No." She said, "I would never be upset with you. You know that you can always talk to me about anything." And she said, "Uncle so-and-so has been molesting me since I was 5 years old." So now when this happened 4 years ago, she was 10. She was 10 when she told her mom, 10 years old. So now she's 14. When she told her mom that her uncle, which is her brother, has been molesting her every day that she left him with him while she go to work. This really took a big toll on the family. Everybody was pretty upset in the family. They all right now the family's like really torn apart, because the mom didn't want to believe that the son was actually molesting her grandbaby, and then that's her son. So it's a lot of bad feelings came out of that. Up till today, the mom and the daughter is not speaking. One of the other brother that is not speaking to the sister, also from putting their brother away. But the sister explained to them, and she told them, "What if it was you? How would you feel to know that somebody that you trust and you eat and sleep with and talk with in the same house know that they're molesting their niece, how would you feel? So of course they are not looking at the bigger picture. They just upset because they figure they said that she should have discussed it with them. She should have talked about it instead of having him arrested. Well, in my opinion, I think she did the right thing, because if you're a grown man and you're able, sorry, and you're able to molest a child, then you need to be in prison where you belong. The physical examination, sorry, the physical examination showed that there was 61% found to be normal in the 311 cases, and 39% range in the psychological and physical effects were required. The study also showed that there were 3 cases that involved attempted suicide, pregnancies, and HIVs. This is a cycle. I never was molested, and I thank God I wasn't, and nobody other than my cousin in Georgia I know of that's in the family. But I can imagine the psychological effect it has on these individuals, that it has on one person, knowing that someone that you trust and love, and you grew up with them, and they sorry, and they are molesting you. How can that person even show their face in public? How can they even come around other family members? They should not be able to show their face in public. They should not be able to come around others neither. Which is not, I'm sorry. They should not have been able to come around anybody and they shouldn't even been allowed in public. Sorry, they shouldn't even been allowed to come in public. And I really think that he's in the right place. He had a lot of time to think about it. This past Thanksgiving, he wrote her a letter apologizing for everything that he did. He's sorry that he did it. He wasn't in his right frame of mind when he did it. He just wished that he can take it all back. But it's too late to take it back, because you have messed up a child's life. This kid's life is messed completely up. How can she correct the damage that you've already done to her? Childhood sexual abuse is not a good thing. It leaves a lot of psychological scars on the child, and that child grow up to be adult. That child grows up to have trust issue. She don't trust anybody. She has problems in relationships. She can't keep a good relationship because she can't find herself to forgive herself, because a lot of them starts to feel that they are the blame. If I didn't sit on Uncle so-and-so lap, it wouldn't have been that. If I didn't let Uncle so-and-so kiss me on my cheek, it wouldn't have led to that. Ladies, kids, adolescents, it is not your fault. Do not under any circumstance blame yourself for Johnny's mistake. Johnny knew exactly what he was doing. He's an adult. Do not feel that you're the one that is at fault because you you sat on Johnny's lap. Johnny is supposed to be your uncle that is supposed to be protecting you. Johnny is your family that's supposed to love you and protect you from others out there, not you where you got to be afraid of Johnny and you got to worry about Johnny. That's not how it's supposed to be. So it's too many times that I've gone to workshops, domestic DV workshops, and I've gone to meetings because I do workshops on weekends sometimes for domestic violence. And I'm a part of their workshop because one of the lady that started the DV workshop is a good friend of mine. She started WAPU Women and Empowerment, Women Empower, that she started. So I go to a lot of the workshops and a lot of the meetings and stuff, and I constantly hear women and even teenagers, young girls in there saying, well, it's my fault. It is not your fault. And I tell them, stop blaming yourself. It is not your fault. You have no control over the sickness that Johnny has. I'm just using Johnny as an example because I don't want to call the person name. So I'm just using Johnny as an example. You have no, sorry, you have no control over Johnny and his sickness. What we have to do today is teach our daughters. Not only our daughters, we have to teach our sons. No one is to touch you in any way that you feel uncomfortable. If you feel that someone is touching you in a way that you're uncomfortable, you must always come and let your parents know. If your parents are not around, let a responsible adult know that that Johnny has been touching me and I don't like the way Johnny is touching me. Let someone know. Don't ball it up inside and hold it inside. And every time you go, John is waiting to molest you. John is waiting to rape you. John is waiting to touch you. No, no one should be uncomfortable in their surrounding, in their environment. Yes, you must watch and be aware, but you shouldn't be uncomfortable around family where you don't want to be there. So we as mothers, fathers, grandmothers, aunts, uncles, if you're out there doing the nastiness of touching your family members, you need to stop before you get caught, because that is not the way to go. It is inappropriate. It is messing that child mind up. It is causing trauma in their life, and it affects their life for the rest of their life. That is not what we want to happen. And you see how many cases that this article did a case study with, was doing research with, 311. This was just in 2013. Can you imagine what it is today? It keeps growing higher and higher and higher. Let's help put a stop to this child sexual abuse. Individual development. Individual development was one of the development metaframe that I felt could reflect childhood sexual abuse. I did not do a case study, nor did I use the articles that was available to use that we used in the beginning of the semester on metaframes. But I was so interested in doing this this article doing the childhood sexual abuse, I didn't use the articles. I continued to do my class presentation on my term paper, which this is what my term paper is on, but I have concluded the metaframes, different things I've concluded in my term paper. This is just like a briefing of what my class presentation is on. So I continued to do my class presentation on my term paper, which was childhood sexual abuse. Individual development talked about a case study where the lady, individual development talked about a case study where the lady was not arrested as an adolescent. She grew up to be a grown lady. However, she still has some childhood issues she was still dealing with that reflected in her behavior. When we talk about arrested, we're not talking about the person being physically arrested and going to jail. That's not what we are talking about. We are talking about arrested from child abuse, having to deal with child abuse. This goes back to children that were sexually abused in their childhood. They grow up to be young ladies slash adults, young ladies and adults, but it is still that part of life that they try to forget but continues to surface. They tend to display behaviors at one point or another in their lives. Families can only accommodate them. They are not able to arrest them, which means that they're not able to arrest them from the abuse and the trauma that they have encountered. These are things that they have to deal with head on, get counseling, get the help. The family is there to support them, but until you get help for this thing that has had you trapped from a child, that had you arrested from a child, you will not be able to move forward. You will only go a few miles, but then eventually you are going to have to come back. You're going to end up back in the same place where you were because you are still arrested. You have to get rid of the problems that you're having, which means dealing with the problem that you have head on, which means the child being molested as a child from your childhood. Those are things that keeps you arrested, keep you trapped. Those are things that you need to speak to a counselor about, get counseling, seek help for, so that you can be able to move on. Because until that is dealt with, you will not be able to move on in life. That will always keep you in bondage, keep you tied up. And that is not what we want today. We want you to be able to get the help that you need, be able to set yourself free so that you will be able to move on in life, so that you will not have this here blocking relationships that you get into, have you developing behaviors, have you acting, have you with different attitudes toward people. These are some of the things. You will be trapped in your body. This is things that cause you to have depression, gives you eating disorders, because you have not allowed yourself to move on from the abuse that you suffered during your childhood. So I ask everybody that is listening on the sound of my voice, and you know someone that has encountered some form of abuse, it is time to help them move forward. Let them know that there are services out there. There are therapy that's out there that can help them unlock these bondage, these chains that's been holding them down. Families can only accommodate them. They are not able to arrest them, as I just said. I'm sorry. They will continue to deal with their childhood abuse until they are arrested from their childhood. It's just like it's just like the song Shackles on My Feet. If you don't loose those shackles, you will constantly be in bondage. It is time to talk to someone. Sit down and speak with someone so that you can be set free. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's a step moving forward to be set free. Theories of change. Some of the theories that you can use that will be helpful with childhood sexual abuse and any other abuse that you may encounter. These are some of the theory of change that is very helpful, that will help you. Be the voice for your children. Advocate and campaigning for better practice in politics to fulfill children's right to protection. There is not enough, there is not enough protection out here for our children. We must be that voice. We must advocate that our child may be protected, that they may be protected on the streets, that they may be protected in the schools, in the parks, in the communities. We must learn to advocate for our child, because if we don't advocate for them, there is no change that is going to take place. And we can't just go out and advocate for them today, and then the following week and months we don't advocate. We have to constantly be that voice for our children. We have to constantly let them see that we're on the front burner for them, that we're there to protect them by any means necessary. Achieve results at scale and support the implementation of best practices, programmers, and policies to ensure sustainable impact in ending violence against children. We must end the violence against children. We have lost so many kids since since 2000 sorry, since 2018 came in. We have lost so many kids in the schools to gun violence, on the streets to gun violence, in the homes to gun violence. And it's our own kids that's killing one another. Why? Because we're not advocating enough against gun violence. We're not advocating enough against crimes in the schools, crimes on the streets. Before the communities would stick together, everybody would be one. Now we have the communities so divided. Before, when I was growing up, in my community, everybody was one. If you did something, you better believe Johnny Mom is going to beat you. By the time you get to the church, when you get to church, your mom is going to find out. Your mother is going to beat you in the church. Where everybody was like your mother in the community. You could not get away with anything, because what Mary didn't see, Jackie was going to see. And you was going to get a beating from Jackie, and Jackie would take you home, and your mom would beat you again after Jackie and then beat you and take you home. Because that was the type of love that we had in the communities. Today, you can't even say anything to these kids. The mom comes out, they want to fight you. You have to be so careful as to what you say to people, kids these days. Because it's no more, it takes a village to raise a child. Today, that's not happening. You have all these young kids that's having babies. And I'm not knocking all young kids, because you have some young kids that are some young girls that are very responsible and very, that is doing good job with their child. But then you have those other one also out there that is young, that has no sense of direction, and is lost already. And is lost. So these kids are so far gone. You don't even know what to say. You don't even want to say anything to them because you're afraid. Too many young kids also are walking around outside with guns. So this all goes back to a form of abuse. And until we get together and make a change and constantly protest and write to the assemblyman and go to the polls and vote, then nothing is going to change. You have to come out and vote. You have to come out and make a difference. Advocate. Speak up. You have a voice. You have a tongue. People do not realize how much power lies in the tongue. You have to just know how to use it, and use it in a positive way. Stop using it in a negative way so much. Be the innovator and help develop. Be the innovator and develop and prove evidence-based, replicable, breakthrough child protection solutions. Build partnerships and collaborate with children, civil society, communities and families, governments and private sector to share knowledge, build capacity and influence others. That's what you have to learn how to do. Encourage others, build them up, build a community where everybody sticks together. Nobody is afraid to tell you that Johnny misbehaved today because they're afraid that you're going to want to come out and start fighting. Start to build families back. Start to build communities back. Start to speak to government. Share the knowledge that you have with other family members, people in the community. Learn to build capacity to influence others. That's what we have to start doing. Learn to lift other people up. If you have information that can help Sarah, for example, share that information with Sarah. Stop holding on to information that can benefit other people because you don't want them to know what is going on. You don't want to share the information you got from somebody else, but you got to remember somebody else shared that same information with you. So you have to learn to be willing to share the knowledge that you have gained. That knowledge that you are passing along to somebody else can be knowledge that can save someone's life, can be knowledge that can help Johnny go in the right direction, change his life totally around and go in the right direction, because Johnny didn't know that this was available. Johnny just thought everybody was against him. Johnny didn't know that the community was a family. So we have to start bringing back the neighborhoods and the communities like it used to be. Go to the PTA meetings. Go to the community meetings. Go to the building attendance meeting. These are all meetings that you can go to and learn to network. Network, learn who lives in your community. Learn who you need to speak to in case stuff like these violence comes to your neighborhood. Many of us have sex offenders that lives in the neighborhoods that we don't even know that they live in the neighborhood. But if everybody get together, they can start checking these websites, they can share the information, because there are websites that will tell you the sex offenders that is registered in your area. So this is information that you can share with people in your community, because not everybody is computer savvy. But if you gain this information and you print it out and you pass it out in your community, you could be saving that child as well as yourself from being molested. We must learn to stick together. We must learn to come together. And that I have noticed in other communities that I've gone to, that they don't stick together. Learn to speak up. When something isn't right, don't just roll over and take it. You will never know what difference you can make if you don't speak up. You will never know what the offenders that you can keep out of your community, out of your block, out of your building, if you don't speak up. Let the community know that you have these sex offenders. You have kids in these communities, and yet these sex offenders are let back out on the streets in your community to molest and rape again. We must learn to advocate for our kids. We must learn to speak up for our communities. Let's help. Let's start building these communities back. I know a lot of time people's like, oh, well, you're really asking for a lot when you're saying, let's build these communities back, because you have the ones in the community, they don't want to participate. They don't want to come out. You never see them at the election poll. Just keep doing what you are doing. Eventually, they will come out. They will see the force that you're putting into everything, and they will eventually come out. So we just have to continue to stick together, continue to advocate, continue to use our voices, and make sure that we are heard, so that the others, we can set example for those that may want to follow us in the long run. Types of therapies for childhood sexual abusers. Group therapy is the best therapy for adolescents that suffer from childhood sexual abuse. The group therapy builds a platform for the adolescents. This platform helps the adolescent to understand that they are not alone. There are other adolescents that went through the same thing that they did or similar, and they went through. In cases like this, I always felt that group therapy is the best, because you never want to feel that you're in this by yourself, that you are the only one. You're not the only one. You're not the only one that was abused from childhood. You're not the only one that was abused by family members. You're not the only one that was raped on your way home from work one night. You're not the only one that was trapped in the elevator with a rapist. So these group therapy, it builds that platform so that you will see that you're not alone in this. You have others around you that has been in the same boat or similar, or encountered similar things as you have, that is going through the same thing that you're going through, that you can talk to and listen to their story as well as they listen to your story. This is where it will all come out, and this is where your healing process will start. You can't heal if you don't admit that there is a problem. You can't heal if you keep brushing it under the rug. You can't heal if you keep trying to put it out of your mind. You must get help. And in this case here, it's best that you get group therapy so that you will know that you're not alone in this situation. There are others out there that is dealing with trauma psychologically the exact same way that you're going through as well. Seek help. It's never too late. Psychological effect. A child that went through childhood sexual abuse life is affected tremendously psychologically. A child that has been sexually abused may have a psychological effect on the way childhood development, on the way that childhood is developed. Today in our society, many children continue to be sexually abused. Families must talk. Families must talk to their children on a regular and let them know that sexual abuse does exist and it even exists right in the family sometimes. Therefore, if there's anything that is happening, don't be afraid to come and talk. To let them know that they should never be afraid to come and talk to them, talk to their parents if there is something happening. If somebody is touching them the wrong way, as I mentioned earlier, let your parents know. If Johnny is kissing you on your face the wrong way, let your family know, and let Johnny know also, I don't like the way that you're kissing me. If Johnny is telling you, come sit on my lap, let me read you a story, let Johnny know that no, you prefer to sit on the chair. You're not comfortable with sitting on his lap. If Johnny continue to push that you sit on his lap, let your parents know. Johnny is doing A, B, C, and D. I am not happy with it. Could you please speak with Johnny? I don't feel comfortable with him. We must teach our kids to speak up and tell the truth when something like this is happening. And the reason I said tell the truth is because I also had another situation with another one of our individual where he kept saying that he was innocent. He said, I did not molest that little girl. He said, you guys know me for 15 years. I will never do that to this little girl. And he spent 2 months in jail. And he kept saying, I would never do this. I would never. He said, you guys know me. I would never do this. But of course, it was already in the hands of the law, which was the right thing. So they had to investigate to make sure that the little girl was telling the truth. So come to find out, the little girl was not telling the truth. He was telling the truth that he never touched the little girl. The mom has what you call a loose house, where she have guys in and out of her house. Then she have guys sitting around. They're playing cards and they're doing different things in the house. Well, this little girl said the person that actually touched her told her to tell that our individual was the one that touched her. The mother even testified that she know that the individual will never do that because she have left that individual with her child on numerous occasions and come back and nothing has never happened. So the little when they put the little girl on the stand and they started to ask her question, the little girl said she apologized to the individual because he was not the one touch her. He have never touched her. That the other guy, XYZ, has been touching her, and he told her that she better not tell, that she better put it on the individual. They will believe that the individual did it because he has a disability. So I'm glad that the mom really knew that her child wasn't telling the truth, but in the same breath, the mom have to watch who is coming in and out of her home. We're not here to control anyone home, but at the same time, you must know who you're bringing around your kids. And you must know when your child is telling the truth. because there are so many innocent people that goes to prison because that child say that they was molested by that person when it wasn't actually that person, it was somebody else. So that's why we also have to teach our kids to also tell the truth, as well as let us know if there's something going on that they're not comfortable with, so that we can make sure we take care of it ASAP. That we make sure that we nip it before it gets out of hand. Because you trust and believe Johnny will not be coming to my residence again. Because Johnny will be sitting in prison if I ever find out in a case like that that somebody's been touching my child. Thank God that I don't have that, but I do have grandkids that are boys, and they touch the boys just as worse as the girls. But thank God we really don't. Our my grandkids are really secure. The mom is a very strict mom that she don't let them out of her sight, so that is a good thing. When she goes to work, they have they have their job schedule worked out, where my son keeps them in the day while she's working, because he works at night in the hospital. He's on the night shift and she's on the day shift in the hospital. So they rotate their schedule and it works out perfect. Okay. Voices for violences against sexual abuse. Help us stop child sexual abuse. Be a voice for the voiceless. If you see something, report it. Awareness, education, and prevention. We must learn to be the voice for those who don't have a voice and for those who are not able to speak up. We must learn to be that voice. We must learn to protect our child, protect our children at all time. We must be aware of who's coming in and out of our home, and that goes for family members. Because we have family members, there's somebody with a family member in their family that you think that won't do anything, and that could be the family member that turned out to be the one that is causing so much problem and touching your child, and you don't even know it. So we must teach our child from the beginning, that if there is something going on that you don't like, speak on it. Even as adults, as they get older, teenagers, adolescents, we must continue to teach them that if there's something going on and they're not satisfied with it, they must learn to speak up. Always practice safety. Conclusion. This is the conclusion of my presentation. This is the conclusion part of it. In conclusion, childhood sexual abuse leaves a scar on adolescents as well as adults. Adults are treated different from adolescents, leaving the adolescent to rely on the family to protect them. Childhood sexual abuse has been globalized for many years, and patients that has been sexually abused in their childhood usually have some form of behavior that will affect their adulthood. It is our job and responsibility to protect our loved one from abuse. This comes to the conclusion of my presentation on childhood sexual abuse. And again, I will say we must keep a close eye on our loved ones, keep a close eye on our child. Is there a family member in the home that you notice that move a certain way with your child? Call their attention on it in the beginning. Do not wait to the end or wait till something happens before you address them on their behavior. Address them as soon as you see it. Teach your child to address behaviors. Come to them. Teach your child to never be afraid to come and sit down and talk to you about anything. If it's something that they don't like or something that they don't feel comfortable with, they should be able to come, sit down and talk to their parents. Let them know that they don't like what's been happening, whether it's in the school, on the playground, in the home, wherever it is in the community. Teach your child to speak up. We have a lot of pedophiles that is walking around in the communities, walking around on the playgrounds, that are sitting out there watching and preying on our young kids. We must teach them to speak up at all times. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope it went well. I'm sorry that I couldn't do it actually live. My schedule would not even allow me to do it. Right now here is 2:41 in the morning and I'm up doing my presentation and I have to get up in a few hours for work. But I thank Dr. Carlisle, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, for this opportunity to allow me to present it like this. I greatly appreciate it. I thank you for your class this semester. It was very informative. Thank you so much. I was very sick in the beginning of the term, which caused me to get behind, and I got better. And of course, I got sick again 2 weeks ago. The fluid continues to build up around my sciatic nerve, which I'm praying that will just go away. My doctor said the only thing that will help it is physical therapy and yoga, which he gave me 2 weeks of physical therapy when I was bedridden with it. And it caused a lot of pain, but it helped also. And I started doing the yoga, but I was in a lot of pain this past week or so. So my doctor started me back on the physical therapy. So I just want to thank you, Dr. Carlisle, from bearing with me and having patience with me. Thank you for this semester.